Okay, let's get right into something every single YouTube creator has to deal with, but so many get wrong: YouTube's thumbnail policy. Now, you know your thumbnail is the front door to your video, right? But it can also be a trapdoor that gets your channel into some serious trouble. So let's break down exactly what you need to know to stay safe. And I want to start with a huge, high stakes question. Could one single thumbnail be enough to get your entire channel deleted? You might think no way, but the answer is surprisingly yes. And in this explainer, we're going to cover exactly how that can happen, and more importantly, how you can make sure it never happens to you. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about how one thumbnail can cause big trouble. Then, we'll dive deep into the rules on shock and sexual content, the really sensitive stuff. After that, we'll tackle the infamous clickbait trap. We'll also break down the difference between a warning and a strike. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with some best practices to keep your channel in the clear. All right, first up, one thumbnail, big trouble. This is so foundational because honestly, a lot of creators just don't realize how far-reaching these rules actually are. See, here's the thing that trips a lot of people up. This isn't just about the thumbnail you pick for your latest video. Nope. YouTube's policy covers basically every single image on your channel page. That means your channel banner, your profile picture, even the images you drop in your community posts. It's the whole visual shebang. Okay, now for the real heart of it all, the rules on shocking and sexual content. You can think of this as the forbidden zone. These are the hard lines that YouTube really does not want you to cross, ever. First up, the most severe category, hands down, pornographic and sexual imagery. The rules here are just absolute. We're talking about explicit poses, any image that even suggests a sex act, visible sex toys, or fetish-style stuff. There's no gray area here. This stuff is an immediate, serious violation. Next up is nudity. And this goes way beyond the obvious, like visible genitals. YouTube is really looking at the context. Are bare breasts being used in a sexual way? Is the main focus of the image just the buttocks? It even covers what they call unwanted sexualization, which is like zooming way in on certain body parts just to get attention. And listen, this next point is absolutely crucial. This is a mistake I see creators make all the time. They think, hey, my video is totally fine, so the thumbnail must be too. Wrong. Your thumbnail is judged completely on its own. You could have the most family-friendly video in the world, but if that thumbnail crosses a line, you're still getting a strike. The policy is also just as strict when it comes to violent or graphic content. We're talking about blood and gore, close-ups of really bad injuries, images of dead bodies, or anything that's just designed to shock or gross people out. This is one of those areas where channels that are monetized need to be extra careful. And don't forget, it's not just the picture. The words you put on your thumbnail are under the same microscope. Using sexual, swear words, really offensive slang, or any kind of abusive text right there on the image, that's a direct violation. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about something a little trickier for a lot of people: the clickbait trap. This can feel like a gray area, but YouTube actually has a pretty clear definition of what it considers harmful, misleading thumbnails. So what does YouTube actually consider bad clickbait? Well, it's when you deliberately mislead the viewer. Maybe you show something in the thumbnail that isn't actually in the video, or you use fake shock value, like a fake injury or a photoshopped explosion, just to get that click. The key word here is intent. Are you trying to trick someone? And here's why this is such a huge deal. A misleading thumbnail isn't just one problem, it's two. It breaks the thumbnail policy for sure, but it also breaks the misleading metadata policy. Why? Because you promised one thing and delivered another. It's like a double violation, and YouTube takes that very seriously. So, we've talked about all the rules, but what actually happens when you break one? Let's get into the consequences. It's time to break down the huge difference between getting a simple warning and getting a channel-ending strike. First thing you have to understand is that not all slip-ups are created equal. On one side, you've got issues that might get your thumbnail removed or your video age restricted, but you won't get a strike. Think things like slightly revealing clothing. But on the other side, you have the really serious stuff that puts your whole channel at risk: pornographic images, extreme violence, and totally misleading shock content. So here's how the system usually escalates. The very first time you violate a policy, YouTube actually gives you a bit of a break. You get an official warning. But if you violate a different policy within 90 days of that warning, you get strike 1. Do it again, that's strike 2, and a third strike within that 90-day window, and that's it.
your channel is terminated.
So yeah, 90 days. That's the magic number you need to burn into your brain. The good news is that your initial warning can actually go away after 90 days if you take a quick policy training course. And the strikes themselves, they also expire after 90 days. So that window's your chance to learn, correct course, and get back in good standing.
But, and this is super, super important, I have to make one thing crystal clear. For the most severe violations, and pornography is the #1 example, YouTube can and will skip the entire warning and strike system. No warnings, no strikes. Your channel is just gone. Immediately. Okay, wow, that was a lot of scary stuff, right? But don't worry, let's flip this around and end on a really positive, proactive note with our last section, your best practices. How do you make awesome, compelling thumbnails that keep you completely safe? Here it is, your simple go-to checklist. Keep your thumbnails clean and above all honest. Make sure what people see in the thumbnail is actually in the video. Steer clear of sexualized poses, weirdly zoomed-in body parts, or shocking images. You can make amazing, clickable thumbnails using bold text, great facial expressions, and vibrant colors. Focus on creativity, not controversy. If you want to stay out of trouble, you need to learn to think like a YouTube reviewer. So before you hit publish, just ask yourself these questions. Is the main part of my thumbnail to arouse or to shock someone? Do my title and description support that kind of intent? If the answer is yes, you are deep in the danger zone. It's all about intent.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Every single thumbnail you create is a choice. It can be your greatest asset, the thing that brings in tons of new viewers, or it can become a massive liability that puts everything you've worked so hard to build at risk. The choice is yours.